Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode, I think it's number 23 now, Ivan,
Yeah,
of
I think
Fans
so.
from the Stands. We kind of keep having these little bit of delays in between episodes, but like we said, it's the summer and other family and camp and
Softball.
baseball and softball get in the way. And we did our softball team proud again this year, finishing in the bottom of the division.
Yes, in usual
Why,
fashion.
why change a good thing? Hey, we still had fun.
Yeah.
So let's. When I was looking back, preparing for this episode, I was looking back, listening to our last episode, and man, it looked gloomy.
It really did. It really
We
did.
we were kind of, well, if they go on a hot run, they can kind of maybe challenge for this wild card, maybe if this goes well. And then they played a few games. And I remember we're playing softball, and I talked to Ivan, and I said, they really need to sweep the A's. Do you think we could do it? Uh, we could, but and lo and behold, then they swept the A's. And for those of you who follow the Blue Jays, obviously they've gone on this tear, winning the last 13 out of 15 games. It's been, and sorry, I probably introduce ourselves. I'm your co-host Mickey, along with my buddy Ivan.
Hey guys.
All right. So see, it's been a while. I'm not used to the setup.
Yeah.
So the Jays now, as of right now, like at this minute, at 7:18 p.m. on the 15th of September, 2021, the Jays are half a game up in the wild card race. Who saw that coming?
Well, if you would have asked me 2 weeks ago, I would have been like at that point. I think we're like 3 or 4 games out, and it was just really bleak.
It looked bleak, right?
Yeah.
Actually, I think we're at that point. We were 5.5. We were 5.5 games out at some
one point. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just we couldn't hit like that series against Detroit, and we just couldn't get a hit.
Yeah.
And I mean, it didn't look good. But then, and I'll before we get into this recap, at what point do you think this all changed? I think we'll both have the same answer. So at what point did this turnaround happen all of a sudden?
That massive comeback against the A's.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think it was that Gurriel grand slam was the start of it.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about this in a second. Gurriel grand slam in the 8th inning to tie it. Then they go up and give up 2 runs in the 9th.
Yeah.
And you're just like, stop playing with my emotions. We've been this huge comeback. We're at one point we're down 8-2, and then we come back to tie it 8-8, and then we give up 2 runs, and then it's 10-8, and you're like, oh no. But then Marcus Semien comes in
against his old teammates.
Right? And then 3-run home run, walk off, and wins it. I mean, and then the Jays went on a tear.
Yeah.
Winning the next 13 out of 15 games. And if Vlad wasn't having such a good season, I would say possibly Semien could be your MVP of the league.
Yeah.
If it's not Ohtani.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll talk about this after. Let's start with the recap. We'll do the recap and Jays. This is really awesome. This is really exciting to talk about because we're winning. It was a great couple of weeks. So let's start on September 3rd. We just talked about it. Oakland 10, Toronto 11, which doesn't really give you the entire picture. As we said, the Jays are down at 1 point, 8-2. The Gurriel comes in, hits a grand slam to tie it at 8. We give up 2 runs in the 9th, and then Marcus Semien hits a walk-off 3-run home run to win the game. And that's been kind of the story of the Jays. And their pitching line in that game was Manoah was really off that game. I remember watching it, and he was just 5 innings pitched, 5 hits, 6 earned runs, 2 strikeouts. He just didn't look sharp. And that's the game he was hitting batters. Remember, he was he hit Sterling Marte in the head.
Yeah, and he had hit the other guy first there too.
Yeah,
Josh Harrison
Harrison, I think.
Harrison,
it was. Yeah. And he was melting off on the way to first base. Then obviously he wasn't doing it intentionally. He didn't want to put runners on first and second, hit the guy in the head. He looked upset by it.
Yeah.
And then even Romano wasn't good that game. He's only gave up 2 runs in the 9th.
Yeah, blows saved, but he gets a win.
Yeah, that's why some stats in baseball are kind of tricky, right?
Yeah.
And then Pearson He made his recall debut.
Yep.
One inning pitched, 3 hits, 1 earned run, no strikeouts. So, I mean, all things considered, Jay's got a win. All right, we beat the team we needed to beat that was ahead of us in the wild card. And then comes on to September 4th, Oakland 8, Jays 10. And this one sounds a lot closer than it actually was. Berrios pitched a great game, 6 2/3. He gave up 4 hits, 3 earned runs, and had 7 strikeouts. He started to become that pitcher, where we were expecting when we got that sheet. He's the pitcher we were expecting the first game after we got him from the trade deadline, right?
Exactly.
The Jays gave up 5 runs in the 9th inning to make it close, but still came up with a win. So we were on a roll, right? It's 2 in a row, right? We're feeling good about ourselves. And then you got to feel good about yourself because the next game you have Robbie Ray on the mound, and the Jays win that one 8-0. Robbie Ray is doing what Robbie Ray does in his tight pants every game. And before we continue,
I got to get one of those T-shirts.
I ordered one.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. So for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, the Jays Care Foundation are selling T-shirts, Robbie Ray T-shirts. And I don't know what it entirely says. I know that it says Ray on the front, and but the capital A is Robbie Ray's tight pants.
Yeah.
Robbie Ray in his tight pants. And I like to take some credit for this because we mentioned it like when it first started. And I went,
yeah,
that guy's pants are extremely tight. It's become a thing. So, anyways, Robbie Ray pitched really well. Shutout, 10 strikeouts.
Yep.
And who else pitched well that game? Nate Pearson.
Yes.
1 inning pitched, no hits, no earned runs, 3 strikeouts. And that's the guy we were kind of hoping, especially down the stretch for in the bullpen, you could kind of rely on.
Exactly.
So then, now we're moving. Now we're rolling. We've won 3 in a row. We've gained some ground on the wild card. But then we got to go to New York. And typically, we don't usually play very well in New York.
No.
September 6th, Jays 8, New York nothing. Ryu pitched a beautiful game.
Yep.
6 innings pitched, 3 hits, 6 strikeouts. He pitched again what we needed in New York, and he pitched really well. So all right, now we're all right. We're going. It's 4 wins in a row, boys. Let's go. Let's keep it moving. September 7th, Jays 5, New York 1. Steven Matz not really sharp, right? He was 6 innings pitched, 7 hits, but only gave up 1 earned run.
Yeah, he was effective.
So when you hear those announcers say he really scattered those hits, well, he actually did scatter those hits, right? 1 earned run, 6 strikeouts. The Captain Kirk hit 2 home runs that game. And this is kind of a nice dilemma the Jays now have in front of us. We have 3 catchers that are hitting.
Yeah.
We'll talk about Jansen after this, but so we have Jansen,
McGuire,
Sticky Fingers McGuire, and I can't let it go.
The captain.
And the captain, Alejandro Kirk, who's kind of become Robbie Ray's personal catcher. Right?
He has.
Yeah, that's interesting. But if you remember, I think Robbie Ray would always use like the backup catcher. I think even when Jansen was starting, we had what's his face, Riley Adams,
right?
He'd be catching for Robbie Ray. So Robbie Ray doesn't care. Give me the young guy. Robbie Ray doesn't give a crap. September. So now we've got how many games in a row now? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games in a row. Now there's no way we're going to win another one in New York. We do. Jays 6, New York 3. Manoah pitched a beautiful game. 5 2/3, 5 hits, 3 earned runs, 4 strikeouts. And then to close out the series, September 9th, now you're really thinking, okay, we're not going to sweep New York in New York, are we? Yeah, we did. Jays 6, New York 4. Berrios pitched 6 2/3, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 8 strikeouts. Pearson pitched this one. He, again, because kind of up and down, an inning pitch, 2 hits, 2 earned runs, 2 strikeouts. But this series kind of cemented this new Jays team.
Yeah, and there's something that happened for the first time in like 100 years.
Yeah.
The first time that the Yankees had a series at home where they did not have the lead at least once.
Yeah, I think it was since 1908.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible.
That is incredible.
And the Jays scored a lot of runs. I mean, it wasn't nothing like we're going to be talking about in a second. but they scored a lot of runs and didn't give up a lot, right?
Yeah.
And that's how you win ball games. So now that's 4 wins against the Yankees, 3 wins against Oakland.
We're flying high.
Now we won 7 in a row. Wow. Baltimore, come on, this is a piece of cake. Jays 3, Baltimore 6.
Oh.
You know, we just
and that happened the day before our playoff games, and we're like, oh man,
it just really set a bad taste in your mouth. Exactly, right, for our softball league. Robbie Ray didn't have a good this game was interesting. So Robbie Ray didn't pitch well. He had 4 1/3 innings, 8 hits, 3 earned runs, 8 strikeouts. This is the first appearance by Merriweather, who came back after his IL stint. He didn't pitch well. 2/3 innings, 3 runs, 3 earned. And he was kind of put in a pressure situation. Yeah. And I don't think they wanted to put him in that one. But why I say this game is interesting is the little back and forth between Robbie Ray and the Orioles manager, Braden Hayden, I think his name is.
And the absence of Charlie Montoyo in that whole situation.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. So just to build the scene, I think it's around the 3rd inning. Robbie Ray's on the mound, and what's being said is underlay. And Robbie Ray's got obviously a very good slider.
Yep.
And for whatever reason, I think they were saying he's got a 45% swing and miss rate on his slider, except in Camden Yards, where it's like 30%. Not a huge difference, but still 15%.
Right.
So he's finding it really interesting that the Orioles aren't biting at that slider. And Robbie Ray this year especially, everyone's swinging at that slider and missing. So I think what Robbie Ray hears is in the dugout is on delay, and he thinks that they're tipping his pitches, right?
Right.
So if you watch, and we talked about this guy before, John Boy on YouTube, he's got a great video kind of breaking this down. And I guess Robbie Ray says something like "shut up" to the dugout or something, and then that starts. The Orioles manager Braden Hayden, he says, he starts mouthing. I think pretty vulgar.
Yeah, and there was nobody in the stadium, so everybody can hear it. Even the broadcasters could hear it.
Like all 11 people in the stadium were getting involved. And it was, if you listen to the broadcast of Buck Martinez and Pat Tabler, I don't know. This is why you need announcers at the stadium, because they had no idea what was going on.
Right.
Oh, someone's yelling at somebody down there. Well, it's clearly Robbie Ray is clearly staring at the dugout, and Hayden is yelling back at him and get your effing butt back on the mound. I mean, I'm using the PG terms here. And it was a heated exchange. And you're right. This is where you get a little bit, I don't want to say upset, but you start to question Charlie Montoyo.
Yeah.
Because his pitcher, his ace, is getting in a verbal altercation with the manager of the Orioles. Shouldn't you not be coming out of the dugout and saying,
exactly,
like yelling at the other manager, shut up, or at least telling the umpire, hey, why don't you tell the guy to shut up?
Tell him to leave my player alone.
Yeah, and he didn't. Right,
he didn't do anything.
I don't know. Did you listen? Did he talk about that after the game?
He didn't really want to talk about it. So Robbie Ray basically explained what his thoughts were, and he's not the one that told anybody from the dugout to shut up. It was somebody else that was telling DJ Stewart to shut up. And that's why it's hard, right? We can't see who's saying what.
Right.
And then what happened is, I guess he was staring in the dugout, and that's when Hyde just started mouthing off to him.
Right.
And then at one point, Hyde was mouthing off to him, and Ray kind of looked at him and then just kind of shook his head, collected himself, threw another pitch, struck the guy out. And then he was looking back, and then Hyde just kept on going, and that's when Ray just put his arms up and said, let's go then.
Yeah.
And then Hyde's like, keep your mouth shut, blah blah blah, all this stuff.
Yeah, because I don't think I want to mess with Robbie Ray.
No, exactly, right. and Hyde's like, we're not saying nothing here, we're not saying nothing. And then it just kind of died down. But at this whole point, like between the initial confrontation or look or yelling back and forth, there was a strikeout. And then there was another secondary kind of confrontation. And in this whole time, Charlie Montoyo did absolutely nothing.
And that's disheartening. I mean, so I find myself in a little bit of conundrum. So I'm not a big Charlie Montoyo fan. I think he's a terrible bullpen manager. I think he panics in the late innings. We'll get into today's game. So today's game, the Jays are up 6-1 and going in the ninth inning. He puts in Joaquin Soria, who, to be honest, has looked
Terrible.
I don't think he should be part of the bullpen anymore. I think we should DFA him. I think he should just be, I don't know what you do with him. Unless you're getting blown out, put him in the game. But then he gets Tim Meza up.
Yeah.
Like, can we just relax for a second? You're still up 3 runs. There are a lot of other guys in the bullpen that can handle this. Can we just, you don't have to panic all of a sudden, especially after he got an out or 2 outs and you still had Meza warming up and all. It's just, anyways, because they've gone on this winning streak and they're going to most likely challenge for the wild card at least, he's going to keep his job.
Yeah,
you can't fire the manager now. But that was a perfect example of why I don't like his managerial style. I know he's supposed to be upbeat and happy.
Yeah, he's too nice.
Exactly.
He doesn't have the. So I mean, you can't. You don't always have to be like bullheaded like Buck Showalter or anything
or Lou
like
Piniella
that.
or
Yeah, like you don't have to get like completely unhinged every time something doesn't go your way, but in a situation like this, you can't just sit back and just kind of watch your starter have an argument with the other team's manager. Like, I get if it's a player, let the players deal with it.
Right.
But this is the other team's manager. And that's where you need to step out, either go to the home plate ump and say, hey, can you deal with this? Because honestly,
at the very least, right? Go tell the umpire, say, listen, you just shut him up.
Yeah.
Like and he's your ace.
Yeah.
Like, I know Ryu cost more money, but really when that wild card game comes, who's going to be pitching it?
I want Ray in there.
I think everybody does, right? I mean, we saw what happened with Ryu last year in a crucial game. He got smoked. I mean, and you want that swing and miss stuff, and that's what Ray has. And that was disappointing, but it was nice. I liked seeing that conference. I'd like seeing Ray get little like, all right, you want to see that? All right, because what Ray, he only pitched 4 1/3, but after that confrontation, man, he was unhittable.
Yeah,
he was mad, and it was pretty awesome to see.
Yeah, his pitch count had gotten right up there, and that's why he came out.
Yeah, he gave up I think right before this whole thing started, he gave up a triple.
Yeah.
It was 3-0. He gave up a triple, but he didn't let him score. It was, I like Robbie Ray. I really hope we sign him in the offseason.
Same.
But that's a conversation for another day, I think. But then, Jays lose 1, and then you're thinking, oh no.
Here we go. The wheels are falling off.
Yeah, we just won all these games against hard teams, and now we're going to, fall and get our butts kicked by the Baltimore Orioles. Nope. Game 1 of a doubleheader. Close. Jays 11, Baltimore 10. Ryu got beat up a little bit. 2 1/3, 8 hits, 7 earned runs. Pearson pitched kind of well. I don't know about this guy. Like, he's got such good stuff. Anyways, 2 innings pitched, 1 hit, 2 strikeouts, 2 walks. And hey, whatever, we still beat them.
Yep.
It was a free for all on hits, but game 2, Jays 11, Orioles 2. So that's back-to-back games. Jays score 11 runs.
But this is the game they were being no hit.
I totally forgot about that. Yes, that's right. So the Jays, because Hatch pitched 4 innings, not bad. Three hits, 1 and run, 3 strikeouts. Richards, who's actually pitching really well. 1 inning pitch, 2 strikeouts, no hits. Richards is actually 7-2.
Yeah.
So the Jays they're down 2-0?
Yeah.
Up to the 6th inning, it's Aiken, I think is the name of the Orioles pitcher. They're being no hit. And you're thinking, oh, and his ERA is over 7.
I know.
At the start of the game. And because if you're watching the box scores, you're watching the game, you see his ERA kind of slowly drop as the innings go by, and you're thinking, we can get no hit. And it won't be a technical, I'm using air quotes, a no hitter because it's only 7 innings, but it's still going to be demoralizing. And then the Jays decided, oh, enough of this.
Yeah.
Score 11 runs.
In the last inning.
And this is how lethal this offense is, right?
Yeah.
And we'll talk about this after we finish this, but they just look like different hitters right now. Like,
So what's different, and I think it's what's changed over the last little while from when they were kind of slumping a little bit, is the hitters have gone back to their approach from earlier in the season where they're willing to go and just, push for the single and turn the lineup over. Whereas during that like off period, everybody seemed to be swinging for the fences, trying to get the big hit. And I think everybody was pressing it. Now everybody is like hitting singles and doubles and of course the home runs are coming because they happen, right? If you make solid contact and you're not trying for a home run, they just happen sometimes.
right. And I mean, they just look, yeah, right. I think they've gone back to exactly what they were supposed to be doing earlier in the season, which was, two-strike approach.
Two-strike approach, just
And
make contact, go with what the pitcher gives you.
so speaking of two-strike approach, if you follow us on Twitter, I don't know if many of you do, but if you do follow us on Twitter, we actually tweeted Scott Carson, who's the stats guy. Scott Carson's the stats guy for Sportsnet. He's in the booth with the announcers, and anytime there's like a stat that needs or they need research, he's the guy. And he's actually very I'll say vocal. He's big on Twitter. So usually if you mention him in tweet, he'll respond to you. It's a couple times I've talked with him, kind of had it back and forth. So anyways, last night, and Bichette was 0-2 again, and it just seemed like I don't know about you. I've been like, but have you noticed like he's always 0-2?
That's because it's so aggressive early in the count.
Right, and it's just he's fun. Then he fouls like a billion pitches off, and he gets the count back to 2-2. But in any event, so I tweet our fans in the stands account tweets Scott Carson. I said, it seems Bo Bichette is always 0-2. Any statistical evidence to back me up, or am I out to lunch? And then Scott Carson replied, coming into today, being yesterday, he started 140 of 617, so 22.7% of his plate appearances 0-2. 22.7% of his plate appearances were 0-2. That's fifth ranked in Major League Baseball. So yes, it happens a lot. It's pretty interesting. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But and he's still batting 290, 291?
293.
Right 293. Like, anyways. So that was just a warm up. That was like the appetizer.
That was the appetizer for Sunday's game.
That was the garlic bread at the table, the bread basket, because September 12th, Jays scored I guess it would be three touchdowns or 3 touchdowns in a 2-point conversion. And the Ravens, the Orioles got 7, so 22-7. 22-7.
That's letting the big dog eat.
Like Matt started the game, for those of you who don't remember, because there's a lot of offense. He wasn't great. 6 innings pitched, 6 hits, 5 earned runs, 6 strikeouts. He didn't need to be.
I'm going to give him a pass because look at how long you'd have to sit between going in and out.
That, I think, and I could be wrong. I've never played Major League Baseball, but I would imagine at that point when you're up by that many runs, you just get the ball over the plate.
Yep.
If they hit some, they hit some. You just want your guys to go back up, right? So I don't think he was nibbling corners or trying too hard to, get strikeouts. I think he was just trying to get the ball over the plate and
just give him some innings.
Some innings to, to chew on. So this is an interesting stat. 9 NFL teams on Sunday, so the 12th of September, the same day the Jays were playing, scored less than the Jays did. The Buffalo Bills scored less runs or touchdowns, I guess, than the Jays scored. And here's what the Jays batting line in the third inning. So top of the third inning. This is a video game. Walk, double, double, single, home run, single, single, walk, grand slam, walk, foul out, double, double, strikeout. That was in 1 inning.
I know.
For those of you scoring at home, it was walk, double, double, single, home run, single, single, walk, grand slam, walk, foul out, double, double, strikeout. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, that was quite the game to watch. It was fun to watch.
It was fun to watch. So then, we had this good momentum rolling. I think it's the most runs scored in 4 innings.
Yeah.
First four innings, they scored 20. Go ahead.
Yeah, and it was also the most runs scored in a 4-game series.
Yeah, and then it was most ever runs in Major League Baseball in the live ball era in 4 innings. So if you include the 11-run outburst on the night before, including the 3rd inning, I think it was like 28 runs.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Guild record is 25. So then we decided to come home. We're feeling good about ourselves. We're now first in the wild card, and we beat the guys we never beat. Beat the Rays 8-1.
Yeah.
Manoah pitched really well. He was throwing a no-hitter.
And I even tweeted this. I said his stuff is moving so much tonight. His slider was dipping down and falling off the table, and his fastball was just cutting in on righties. It was just amazing.
8 innings pitched, 1 hit, 10 strikeouts.
10 strikeouts.
I don't know what the Rookie of the Year race looks like right now, but I think he's got to be at least in the conversation.
Yeah, unfortunately, Randy Arozarena is the one that's kind of leading the charge.
Yeah.
It's too bad, though.
It's September 4th, so yesterday, September 14th, Tampa Bay 2, Jays nothing. It was no fault of Berrios, who pitched a great game, 7 innings pitched, 4 hits, one earned run. He left with some tightness, I think he said, in his abdominal.
Yeah.
But apparently it's a day-to-day thing, and he shouldn't miss a start. That was a boring game.
It was a boring game. And it seems like the Ray games are typically boring. They're just not interesting to watch. There's like all this extra shifting in it. And did you notice that Montoyo shifts more against the Rays? It's like he's like trying to prove a point to his former team.
Right.
That, hey, I can shift too. And then he puts a 4-man outfield, and it's like, dude, really?
We haven't done that all year. Exactly. Yeah. It's a good point. I forgot to mention the on the 13th, the game before, Yarborough came in.
Yes.
He's typically a Jays killer.
Yeah.
But man, they ever have a good game plan against Yarborough that day? He was throwing them changeups outside, and they were laying off it.
Yeah.
And anyways, so that was 2-0. Then today they just finished about an hour and a half ago. Tampa Bay 3, Jays 6. It was actually 6-1 going into the 9th, and then Joaquin Soria gave up a couple runs. Robbie Ray, 12-5, doing Robbie Ray things. 7 innings pitched, 13 strikeouts.
13 strikeouts.
So
what did they say? That was like he leads the league and starts with more than 10 strikeouts?
Like, I want to say, where did this come from? It came from Arizona. But I can't wait till we do our end of the year.
Yeah.
Listen to our first podcast and listen to our predictions. So I think we both said, "Oh, Robbie Ray, if he's
like he was in 2017 or something."
We'll be lucky, and I was hoping for that. He'd be a third. He's our third starter, and this guy's now the ace of the staff, leading the league in strikeouts. So right now, as we sit, and I just checked the scores, and I believe the Boston Red Sox are now up 7-3 on the Mariners. So it'll be a 3-way tie depending on what the Yankees do against the Orioles, but it'll be a tie still, and it's going to be a battle throughout, right? We're not. I don't expect the Red Sox and Yankees to roll over.
Right.
I think it's going to be a battle all the way through. What's kind of good, I've read about or I've seen the schedule, is that Seattle and Oakland play a lot against each other. So their games are going to cancel each other out. So that's not going to affect the Jays that much. And our schedule lines up. I don't want to jinx them. I'm going to knock on wood. It's lining up pretty nicely.
It is
for us. I'll say that with some some hesitation. I believe so. We play again on Friday. We play 3 games against Minnesota.
3 against Minnesota.
In Minnesota.
And then 3. Oh no. So no, these games are in Toronto.
Okay.
And then we go into Tampa Bay on Monday for 3.
Yeah.
And then into Minnesota for 4.
So let's play. We've done this all year. I would give us against Minnesota.
I don't want to jinx it.
we should win more than we lose.
We should.
We should. It looks like the first start is Ryu pitching against Pineda. That's a good pitching matchup. And then you have the next game is Mats against Ober. Again, that's a pretty good matchup. The way the Jays are hitting though, and then it's to be determined on a Sunday.
Yeah. So the thing is that Minnesota is 64-82 right now.
Yeah.
So they're last in the Central Division. So this is a team we need to beat up on.
We really need to take at least 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Especially going into Tampa, where we play horribly.
It's a house of horrors there.
It really is. You need to take advantage of the softer part of your schedule, which is Minnesota. Then you go to Minnesota for 4. Hopefully you get, again, at least 3 out of 4. And then that sets you up for the last 6 games of the year, 3 against New York.
Yep.
In Toronto, which
could determine who's in the wild card and who isn't.
Who's not. So, this is going to get really interesting. And then your last 3 games against Baltimore.
Yeah. So if we score another 75 runs against them,
we should. This is, it's going to come down to the wire, which I think we all expected at the start of the year that we would be challenging for a wild card. And it's just, when you saw the run differential for us, it was just a matter of time. I think that, things started shifting the way they're supposed to shift. And we're where we need to, I think we're where we need to be. Ivan, we're talking before the podcast and there are only 8 games out first place. And I say only 8 with how many games left to play. Top of my head, 3, 6, 10, 13, 16 games left.
Yeah.
I don't think, unless they go into Minnesota, sweep Tampa Bay, they might be
close.
Close. You never know, right?
But Tampa Bay is a really solid team. And one thing with Tampa Bay is that they never really got cold.
No.
They were always that even keel, kind of consistent, win 2, lose 1.
And
win 3, lose 1.
And watching this series, you have to wonder, how do they do it?
Yeah.
Because there's no pitcher that, they had Waka pitching today. Not good.
No.
Yarbrough out of the bullpen. Even his ERA, not against Toronto, was like 4.89. They lost Glasnow, but they're still like almost at 90 wins.
Yeah. And
it's smoke and mirrors, and like there's no hitter that's like Nelson Cruz, who's 80 years old.
It's yeah, and that's the thing though, right? They have a whole bunch of like not superstars, but good players. Whereas a lot of teams rely on like 2 or 3 stars, and then the rest of the team is like just garbage.
Right. Like right? The Giants are kind of that team right now, right? A bunch of like good players who are performing well, but there's not that guy that hits 30 home runs.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know how the Rays are doing it, but good for them. That team, every year I'm amazed that team finishes in first place.
Yeah.
So the Jays have been, obviously, if you looked at their slugging percentage over the past month, I think the lowest one I think I saw yesterday was Grichuk. Was it 918 or something?
9, yeah. OPS of 9.
And that catch he made today in center field was
amazing.
That was Kevin Pillar-esque.
Yeah.
It was really nice because a little, for those who didn't see the game, it was a little pop-up. I shouldn't say pop-up. It was a fly ball to short center field. The Jays had shifted to the left side, so Simeon was playing over top of the bag at second. He ran out towards the outfield, but he didn't have a chance to get that ball. The only person that could get it was Grichuk, and he made a front-face dive, and grabbed it.
Yeah. And I think he's feeling the pressure because they've stuck Dickerson out in center field a couple of times, right? So he's like, if I'm going to get playing time, I really got to like step it up. And if I can't get my bat going, I might as well put my defense, because his defense has always been decent. Like
decent, never like spectacular, but he's not going to hurt you.
Yeah.
I would say he's a better defender than Dickerson.
Yeah.
At least in center field, at least. And let me know what you think about this. I seem to think that the Rays were diving for balls that they didn't have to dive for.
Yeah.
Like, was it just me? Or like a looper in the left field that they're going to catch probably on the run. They go into a slide, didn't make a catch. It was kind of like, it was getting a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I mean, I digress.
I think they're trying to recreate what they did when they won against the Jays 2-0, where they were
Right.
like catching everything. They were in the right spot every single time.
And that comes down to, they're a big analytics team.
They
Obviously,
are.
we know this from, the World Series last year where they pulled their starter who was throwing Snell, who was throwing a gem
Yeah.
in the 6th inning. But anyway, yeah, they rely heavily on stats. And actually, Kevin Cash today said they just go down the rabbit hole with these stats, right? And Robbie Ray's analytics are just through the roof. Kevin Cash is just absolutely blown away by the year that Robbie Ray's having. So speaking of Robbie Ray, so I think we can all agree that he's at least if not the leader in the Cy Young.
That would be my pick.
Cy Young voting. I mean, so I don't know what your thoughts are. So I have my top 3 would be Robbie Ray, Garrett Cole,
yeah.
And Lance Lynn was kind of there.
And then you had what was the other guy? Rondon.
Yeah, Rendon.
And then Chris Bassett until he took a ball in the face.
Poor Chris Bassett.
Bassett.
So really, to be like, let's be fair. It's really between Garrett Cole. I would think.
Yeah, it's a 2-man race right now, and I would give the lead to Ray right now. He's leading the league in innings pitched. He's leading the league in ERA. He's leading the league in strikeouts. He's leading the league in WAR. At this point, if he doesn't get it, I think the Baseball Writers Association, I think they're all insane.
Well, you'd hope it's not this like New York bias, right? So to give our listeners out there an idea of what we're talking about. So Garrett Cole is 15-7, 15 wins, 7 losses. Robbie Ray is now after today 12-5.
Yep.
Garrett Cole's got a WAR of 5.9. Robbie Ray's got a WAR of 6.3. Garrett Cole's got a 163 and 2/3 innings pitched. Robbie Ray's got 177 innings pitched after today. Garrett Cole's given up 127 hits. Robbie Ray after today's given up 136 hits. Garrett Cole's got 224 strikeouts, and Robbie Ray now has 233 strikeouts. Robbie Ray's got an ERA of 2.64 after today, and Garrett Cole 2.75.
Yeah.
So you're right. I mean, in all statistical categories, there's a couple. He's given up what? Ray's given up 6 more hits.
But he's also pitched way more innings.
Way more innings. That's a good point. And has, almost 10 more strikeouts. And he's carrying his team to the wild card.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say carrying his team. I mean, they've had some good starts by Ryu and Manoah. But I would argue that, he's the ace of the staff now.
Yeah.
So that's our Cy Young. I think it's still, 2 weeks left to go in the season. If Ray pitches the way Ray pitches.
Yeah, he's going to get 3 more starts?
Yeah, roughly. Maybe 3. I think he'll be your wild card starter. Yeah, so I'll ask you the question, and we talked about this before the podcast. So it comes down to a wild card game, and all your pitchers are available for whatever reason. We've got a 2-game lead in the wild card. We can pitch whoever we want. Who are you starting?
I'm starting Ray.
Yeah, 100%, right? You don't have to think about it.
Yeah. He's been your most consistent pitcher all year long.
Right. So let's say it comes down to the last game of the season. You need to win. We just find out, it's a day game, so who knows? You're tied in the standings. It's 3-way tie in the standings. So you need to win this game. So you push Ray to pitch that game because you need to win. Now who do you start? Your wild card game.
I think I would go with Manoah.
Yeah, right? And I was thinking it's funny how this guy that we kind of been praising most of the year, Ryu's been when pitchers were going down and we need some consistency, Ryu usually stood up. But yeah, you want that swing and miss stuff in a wild card game, right? You just can't have I don't know what it is with Ryu because he's good for 2 starts, bad start. I don't know if it's pressure.
I don't know. And see, the thing is, here's my thinking about this. If you go back to 2016, Stroman was the one that started for the Jays in the wildcard game. Stroman goes in there with that swagger. I can do this. This is what I want. I'm here for the big game. And I feel the same type of attitude from Alek Manoah. I'm the man. I'm going in. This is my game. I'm taking this game. And that's the kind of attitude you want going into the wild card game. And we all saw what happened to Ryu in last year's wild card game.
It's sort of that Stroman analogy is a really good one. You're right. It's the same kind of, he's got the same kind of swagger, right? Without so much of the lip. Speaking of Stroman, he's having a
great year.
Amazing year.
Yeah.
Again, we seem to have given nothing. We seem to have gotten nothing in return for him. Well, that's not true. We did get Barrios, I guess, in a kind of like
roundabout way,
like, drawing lines everywhere on a chart. We get Barrios in that trade, but yeah, Sherman's having a great year. I think I'd do the same thing. I think I would start Manoah and have someone ready in the bullpen,
like a Stripling or something,
or Mats or someone, just in case. Because in case when it's one of those days where and he's a rookie, that he just a little wild that day. Anyway, I think we forgot to mention. I don't know if we mentioned it in our last podcast or not, but speaking of getting nothing in return, we at the trade deadline get who do we get from Washington?
Brad Hand
for
Riley Adams.
And now we released Brad Hand, and he got picked up by, who did he get picked up by?
Goodness, I can't remember.
The Mets.
Yes.
The Mets picked him up. So we gave away one of our top catching prospects for zilch.
Yep.
Anyways, you can't predict the future.
And Riley Adams did well too when he went over to the Nationals.
Yes. Yeah.
You just started hitting all of a sudden. It's like, oh man.
I think we talked about this too. Like, he was going to hit eventually. He's a big, strong kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for the Jays, I mean, you had to, if a team's saying we'll give you our closer who's had success.
Yes.
Where you're really in your depth chart, probably your fifth or probably your sixth catcher, really, in depth chart wise, and over the organization, you're going to probably make that trade. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for the Jays. You can't win them all.
You can't win them all. And you know what? Let's be honest. We have good catching depth.
Absolutely.
So we're probably thinking it's a loss, but it's not going to hopefully not bite us in the rear in the future.
It's really interesting. We'll get your thoughts on this too, Ivan. It's really interesting to see how the Jays are kind of juggling their catching right now. Because right now they're carrying three catchers.
Yeah.
Jansen, Kirk, and McGuire.
Yep.
And they're all hitting well.
They're all hitting.
And their defense isn't too shabby. And especially Jansen. Jansen's batting, I think, 370.
Yeah, I'm going to check his game log.
Since
he came back from his injury,
he's batting like 370, and he's got some power. His defense looks good. The kind of the guy we're kind of hoping we'd have last start of this year.
Yeah, so he's hitting 381 since July 4th. 381 with 5 home runs over 47 plate appearances. That's an OPS of 1.352.
Ridiculous, right? And then you have, I think, Kirk, who's batting about 280 now, 275. He's hitting home runs. He's catching Robbie Ray, and then I don't know what McGuire is batting right now, but he's got to be close to 270, I would imagine. Even he got a base hit the other night.
263, and Kirk is 273.
Right, and then Jansen.
And the nice thing is so McGuire's your left-handed bat, right? So if you're facing a tough, righty or whatever, or somebody who's tough on righties, then you throw him in there. He'll give you good at bats because he seems to be fouling off a ton of pitches.
Yeah.
And he hustles down the line. I've noticed that he'll hit a ground ball and he's the guy that busts his butt right up the line.
He was the one, I think it was McGuire that hit that the ball to deep in the shift and he ran it out.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And I mean, he's got a lot to prove.
Yep.
He's really made a lot of mistakes, right? So he's got some things to prove. It'll be a really interesting offseason. We don't want to get too much into it now because there's a lot to talk about when we're in the offseason.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is a good position for the Jays to be in. So I guess that's about it. I think for that's about it. All these runs we've scored, and it's been almost an hour of the show. I guess we can move on to our segment of Around the Horn. So this week, matter of fact, a couple days ago was the Hall of Fame inductions, and on top of some other guys, two of the main draws, I guess you could call them, was Larry Walker, former Montreal Expo.
Captain Canada.
Yeah, with his SpongeBob pin on his suit. And Derek Jeter were inducted to the Hall of Fame. Yep. So Larry Walker was he's an MVP. He's a 5-time All-Star, 7-time Gold Glover, 3-time Silver Slugger, 3-time batting champion. He had a overall WAR of 72.7. He retired with 2,160 hits, 383 home runs, and a 313 batting average. Yep. What is pretty interesting about Larry Walker is that he was just as good of a hitter, I would say, outside of Coors Field as he was in Coors Field.
And that's one thing that a lot of people mention, because, the people always say, well, the ballpark effect of, playing in Mile High Stadium, really affected his stats, but it really didn't. Because his splits were good at home and away.
In his MVP year, at home he batted 384, 460 on base. At home, 709 slugging and a 1.169 OPS. On the road, he actually hit more home runs on the road. He hit 29 home runs on the road compared to 20. He hit 346 on the road, so his batting average is a little lower. 443 on base. He slugged higher, 7 through to 33, and had a better OPS on the road his MVP year. So you can't really say that Larry Walker was helped by Coors Field, sure, but he's just as good a hitter, I think, on the road. Do you think would you, if you could pick, would you give Larry Walker the Hall of Fame?
I would say yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think what a lot of writers do is they look at their peak years.
Yeah.
In comparison to other people that have had, and they just take, okay, these are your peak years. So what's your average WAR? What's your average performance? And then compare that to other Hall of Famers. And I think his numbers are right up there.
He was a good base stealer.
Yep.
He wasn't stealing 40 bases, but he was stealing 15, 20 bases a year.
Had a cannon for an arm.
Great fielder, right? It's funny because I used to be one of these hardcore, to get in the Hall of Fame, you needed either 3,000 hits or 500 home runs. That was the standard.
Yeah.
But I think baseball's kind of evolving. The Hall of Fame is kind of evolving now. You don't need those benchmarks to get into the Hall of Fame. I think Larry Walker is a Hall of Famer. If you listen to his speech, he said in his Hall of Fame speech, he said he's a guy from Canada, didn't know a lot about baseball starting. He's a hockey player. So he says he's playing into the Little League. I don't know if it was a Little League World Series or Little League qualifying. Anyways, something like that. He's gets to first base, and the hit and run. It's called hit and run zone. So he decides he's going to run. He's hit and runs on. Pitch comes in. He takes off for second. Doesn't notice right away that the ball has been a fly ball. So he's got to run back. Runs back, slides back into first base. Umpire calls him out. And he said he's clearly beat the tag or beat the play at first. And then he starts giving some colorful language to the umpire. And then the first base coach grabs him by the arm and says, "No, Larry, you're out. There's no doubt you're out." And he starts yelling at the coach. Took us back to the dugout and was told he learned that apparently you can't cut through the diamond on the way back to first base.
Still have to go around second.
So that was a pretty cool Hall of Fame speech. And the other guy.
Actually, before you get to the other guy,
for sure.
I got to love the fact that he thanked his family.
Yeah. Nice.
So Larry Walker gave a shout out to his family, his mom, Mary, his dad, Larry, his brothers, Barry, Carrie, and Gary.
That's fantastic, right?
I think there's a theme going on with their names.
It's almost like George Foreman and all his kids being called George. The other bum that got inducted to the Hall of Fame. I have a love-hate relationship with Derek Jeter. I mean, if I could have Derek Jeter on my team, I would.
Yeah.
As a second baseman. This is an argument we have after ball and having a few beers at the ball field all the time. But anyways, I digress. We'll talk about Derek Jeter. Was a rookie of the year. He's a 14-time All-Star, 5-time World Series. He's in the World Series for 5 times. I guess World Series winner. He won 5 rings.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
5-time Gold Glover, which.
How do you win a Gold Glove when you have a negative zone rating?
Right. This is the crux of my argument. But anyways, 5-time Silver Slugger, World Series MVP, and
Mr. November.
What's that?
Mr. November.
Mr. November, an All-Star MVP. He had a WAR of 71.3, lower than Larry Walker's, but he did have 3,465 hits, 260 home runs, and that wasn't his game. His home runs was definitely not what he did, but 310 batting average, career batting average, still lower than Larry Walker's, but
yeah.
And he didn't play at Coors Field as well. I'll give him. He did play with a short porch in right field. But anyways, you can argue about this all you want.
You can't deny he was a good hitter.
I think he was a fantastic hitter. And if I ever needed a guy to come to the plate to get a base hit, Derek Jeter is the guy I want.
Yeah.
In that pressure situation. I can't think of anybody else, to be completely honest. And I'm not a Derek Jeter fan. I'm not a Yankees fan. I just and the argument we always have with Derek Jeter is that he was a Hall of Fame shortstop. Well, he played shortstop.
Not very well.
Not well, though. I mean,
he made some great plays. There's no denying that. But I mean, even a broken clock is going to be right twice.
So let's. This is an argument we've had on our.
Here we go.
Here we go.
We're gonna get hate mail
from
another
rabbit hole. With our teammates from our ball team. 2 guys that are really strong supporters of Derek Jeter. And again, I'm not saying he's not a Hall of Famer. Not like Chipper Jones isn't a Hall of Famer. But I don't think Derek Jeter is a Gold Glove caliber shortstop. That's all I'm saying. I think he was a second baseman playing shortstop. He played shortstop because by the time, who's going to move him?
Yeah.
He was your captain. He wants to play shortstop. He's playing shortstop. And I think he had good enough defense on that team to really, he had Tino Martinez at first,
A-Rod at third was amazing.
Right. So you guys covering a lot. Because even so when
Cano,
they got A-Rod.
Cano was at second.
Exactly. So they had good defense around him, right?
Yeah.
When you had A-Rod come to the Yankees, who should have been playing short was A-Rod. And everybody knew that. But Derek Jeter played short because he wanted to play short.
Yeah.
Fine. I mean, if you can and Derek Jeter, and don't get me wrong, Derek Jeter is a Hall of Famer. No doubt in my mind. He's got 3,465 hits. That's ridiculous.
That's, yeah.
A lifetime 310 batting average. I mean, and again, if there's anybody, if I wanted to hit in a pressure situation, the guy I'm calling up is Derek Jeter.
And let's be honest, the guy was the personification of a baseball player, right?
Yeah.
Never got into trouble. He was, one of those guys that shows up every day, rarely injured. You never had any headaches with the guy. From all accounts, he was a great clubhouse leader.
Yeah.
So that's the guy you want on your team, right? You don't want troublemakers and he had to deal with A-Rod.
Well, I was just about to say that exactly. So when A-Rod comes to the team, those are 2 big egos. And A-Rod having a way bigger ego than Derek Jeter, I would imagine. And he handled that beautifully, right?
Yep.
And you're right. There's never no discussion of steroids. No, there was always his stuff with sleeping with a lot of beautiful women. But whatever. He was a shortstop for the Yankees. He can do whatever he wanted. Right. He was Yankees get that a lot, right? These perfect captains of their team that, anyways, he's a Hall of Famer, just not a good shortstop. and let me just say the one play that everybody always talks about, right? Now, well, there's 2. they always talk about his ability to throw like that jump throw in the air from short, deep in the hole.
Yeah.
Well, if he was positioned properly, or it had the range, he wouldn't have to make that throw in the air. I digress. The one major one that we always talk about was the play against in the playoffs against the A's. They kind of turned the series around when Jeremy Jahmeh was running home.
Yeah.
We all know that if Jeremy Jahmeh had simply slid, he'd have been safe. Like, I know it was a great heads up. To be completely honest, I don't even think that it changed the trajectory of the ball very much. It might have sped it up a little bit from him backhanding. So if those of you who don't know this play I'm talking about, YouTube it, Derek Jeter play with the against the A's, you'll see it right away. It was I don't even know what the play was, like a double out or a single out in the right field.
Well, I think what happened is he read that the ball's trajectory from the outfielder was going to miss the two cutoffs because he had the second baseman and the first baseman were playing cutoff.
Yeah. And
it just cleared both of them. So he right away ran from short to try to cut it off and then flip it over to the catcher.
It was a really heads-up play.
It was.
But if Jahmeh slid, he'd be safe.
Yeah.
Anyways, so another baseball news around the horn. We have Ryan Braun announced his retirement.
Yeah, quietly.
Very quietly. I think it was like a video on the scoreboard in Milwaukee. So Ryan Braun's kind of a really interesting character, right?
Yeah. He got caught up in, he got the MVP, caught up in the steroid scandal.
And that story in itself is a really interesting one. That's the one where he, I guess he had tested, and I was trying to read the story before we were making this podcast. I guess he had tested positive for steroids, for performance-enhancing drugs the year before, but appealed it and got cleared. And then made this big press conference and whatever, and then he got caught again.
Yeah.
So he got caught twice. And the second time he actually admitted to using the clear, whatever that from Balco, that testosterone enhancer or whatever. So I don't, he was a good ball player. And it's funny, because if you look at guys that from when I really started really following baseball in the 90s, as an adult, I guess, I could name you off the top of my head guys that I knew were on steroids, like Brady Anderson, Luis Gonzalez, Juan Gonzalez, Mark McGuire, Sammy. So, I mean, those guys looked like they were juicing.
Barry Bonds.
Yeah. There's the most obvious one, right? Barry Bonds. But when you look at Ryan Braun, I didn't think juicer.
Nope.
But in any event, kind of a sad, he just kind of went quietly into the night. And is he a Hall of Famer?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. I think he was a really good ball player for his era, but not a Hall of Famer, especially with this whole steroid issue. So again, around the league, we have somehow. So I guess let me catch my breath here. So we'll start with the Giants. The Giants had a 1.7% chance of making the playoffs on the start of the year. I don't know who predicts this, but that was the percentage they gave them. And then they were the first team
to clinch a playoff spot.
This is exactly they're what we were saying before. They're exactly like the Tampa Bay Tampa Bay Rays, where they don't have. I think I can name you. Well, okay. I'm going to name the players I really can think of off the top of my head, which is Brandon Crawford, their shortstop. Buster Posey's their catcher.
Yep.
Yastrzemski's playing somewhere in the outfield.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Yeah, pitching.
Logan Webb is a pitcher.
Yeah, and pitching wise, yeah, exactly.
Like, how are they doing this? And it's not like they're in a weak. It's not like they're playing in the American League Central.
Well, that's exactly it, right? They're facing the Dodgers and the San Diego Padres regularly,
and beating them. It's a really fantastic story. I hope the Jays meet them in the World Series.
That would be awesome.
I really think I hope they make it far in the playoffs, and they're a great story. But in other news, we have now that the Cardinals, who were I think at the trade deadline, I think they're 7.5 games out or at the Wildcard or whatever. So they went out and got J-Hap from Minnesota. and John Lester, I think from the Cubs. I think he was still playing for the Cubs.
I don't
In
remember.
any event,
Yeah.
no one really cared.
Yeah.
Because, well, like Hap's what, 39, 40?
Yeah, he's
Lester's like 39, 40. So their staff, if you look at but they're now, I think Hap has got an ERA with St. Louis of like 2 something. Lester is around 3. And Adam Wainwright, who's their 39-year-old pitcher, is
having a resurgence.
like they've made a playoff spot.
Yep.
I mean, it's also due to the fact the Mets have kind of crumbled a little bit. But if you look at did you watch the game between, or at least see the highlights between the Mets and the Yankees?
Yeah.
that was pretty wild.
It was.
The game we're talking about, and I think it's the game you're thinking of as well. It was a back and forth kind of game. Lindor, who hasn't turned out to be like I don't think he's the player that the Mets thought they were getting originally. I mean, he had a bad start.
Yeah, and like I think the Jays dodged a bullet by not getting him.
Right? There'd be some issues. Yeah, and then Bichette would be playing. I mean, who do you want now, Lindor, or do you want Semien?
I want Semien.
Exactly. Right now, if hindsight being 2020,
yeah, exactly.
I want Semien. Back then, I would have said, "Are you crazy? I want Lindor." But anyways, So I guess the game before, the Yankees were whistling.
Yeah.
Whistling pitches or tipping pitches. So that's what the accusation was from the bench of the Mets. So Lindor hits a home run, and then as he's rounding the bases, he starts doing this like whistling like thing with his fingers, like pretending to whistle with his hand, and that gets under the skin of the Yankees, and they start mouthing off. And then Giancarlo Stanton, he's a big dude.
He's a big dude.
He hits a home run, I think, to tie the game or down by a run or whatever it was. And he goes on, and then he starts like mouthing off Lindor as he's kind of passing him, saying
he practically stopped mid home run trot.
Yeah, and kind of staring at Lindor and like mouthing back off to them. So of course, what happens in New York? The Mets, Lindor hits a go-ahead home run. It was a wild game. It's fun to watch those interleague, like real rivalries, right?
Yeah, the Subway Series is what they call that.
Yeah, the Subway Series. Even when the Cubs and the White Sox are playing each other, no matter where they are in the standings, at least it's a fun game to watch. Had there been the Expos?
Yeah, I long for the days of the Canadian Series.
Expos and Jays. Maybe one day.
Maybe one day.
Maybe one day the Rays will become the Jays. And the Rays become the. Let's hope. I'd hope. Just flip the standings. Yeah, so that's about anything else you want to talk about from around the league?
No, I think that kind of covered. Oh, actually, you know what? I just want to kind of pull up like the league leaders.
Right.
All right. So we kind of talked about the Cy Young, and right now we're talking about, if we want to talk about the MVP, and from all accounts, it seems like everybody's going to give Shohei Ohtani that MVP vote. But let's take a look at the year that Vladdy's having. So Vladdy right now in the American League, he's leading in average. He's leading in home runs with 45, and he's in third for RBIs. So he just needs to increase his RBI output, and he's, we're talking the Triple Crown here.
And to be honest, say the Jays were out of it, I think today they would have sent. So today he had 2 doubles, and both times Semien was on first base. And I think both times he could have scored. Yeah. But it was nobody out, and they wanted to. Bichette was up, so they didn't want to. Obviously, you don't want to push it. But if he's down, if it comes down to the last part of the season, he needs like a couple RBIs to be you're sending Semien. Yeah. Anyways, yeah.
And
sorry, go ahead.
And it's just sad that you're going to get a possible, like if he gets the Triple Crown, I still don't think he's going to get the MVP. Right. But that would be so sad to see that happen, right?
Okay, and try to put it'd be hard. I don't know if I could. Try to put your Blue Jays bias aside. Even if he doesn't win Triple Crown, he comes in like first in average, first in home runs, second in RBIs. Who gets the MVP?
I mean, Shohei Ohtani is doing stuff that we haven't seen in 100 years.
Right. And
that's the thing. If he was a terrible pitcher, I'd be like, whatever. I mean, you're a DH then, and you just every once in a while you start and you blow it. But he's a good pitcher.
So this is a conversation. This again comes back to our ball team talking around a beer. What is so MVP, your most valuable player?
Yeah.
I'm not knocking Shohei Ohtani. You're right. What he's doing now is something we've never seen in 100 years.
Yeah.
And you're right. He's a good pitcher. He's got to raise 338, I think, around there.
Yeah. I'll pull up his stats really quick here.
I think he's got 42 home runs.
44.
44 home runs. How many?
He's one behind Vlad. Yeah.
He's batting like 280. But his team is 70-74, putting them fourth in the AL West.
I know. So if you look at his stats, so his batting average, he's been in a slump lately. So let's kind of keep that in mind. So his batting average is down to 257. At one point, he was at like 280. 280,
yeah.
But he's got 44 home runs, 94 RBIs. And then when you look at his pitching stats, he's got a 3.36 ERA over 115 innings. So it's not like he's not pitching a lot. He's putting in quite a few innings. It's really tough, right?
So here's my argument.
Yeah.
I'm going to be biased towards the Jays. I told you not to. If you take Shohei Ohtani off the Angels and you take Vladimir Guerrero off the Jays, are the Jays still where they are?
Possibly. Because, well, let's look at some of the numbers. So when you look at the leaders in the AL, for batting average, Vladdy's first, Teoscar's 4. For home runs, Vladdy's first, Semyon is 4. For runs batted in, Vladdy's third, Teoscar's tied with him. For runs scored, Vladdy's first, Bichette's second, Semyon's third. And then for hits, Vladdy's first, Bichette's second. So we're looking at a team that has so much star power that I know Vladdy's playing a huge role in there, but losing him, I mean, it would hurt the team for sure. It would probably take him out of a playoff spot.
Well, what's Vladdy's WAR? Is it around what? 9?
Let's go take a peek here. So Ohtani's WAR is 7.7. So let's look at Vladdy.
So you take 7 wins off the Angels, and they're now at 7 points. So let's say 8 wins. They'll be 69 and 82.
Vladdy's got a WAR of 6.
So, I mean, I've actually talked myself into giving it to Ohtani because I think you get rid of Ohtani on that team, and they're a lot worse.
Yeah.
Right. And both sides of the ball.
Yeah. That
being said, this happens again next year, where Ohtani again pitches 3.30 ERA. Does he get? And he only hits 30 home runs.
Yeah.
But again, it's something we haven't seen in 100 years, or 1 year. Really, this player is a generational type player.
Yeah.
Are we just gonna give him the MVP because he's good on both sides of the ball? And that's what's. I mean, really, it's almost like you're punishing players now because they don't play on both sides.
I know. And that's where it's tough to say. It's really tough to say. And what I was watching Jeff Passan and John Paul Morosi on Tim and Friends yesterday.
Yep.
And both of them kind of said, like, really, like he's giving them a chance to win by hitting, but also by pitching.
Right.
Whereas Vlad is giving them a chance to win with his hitting. Is he a Gold Glove first baseman? Probably not this year, but he's pretty darn close.
I would be hard pressed to tell you right now the first baseman who plays a better first base. And I'm biased because I watch more Jays games than anybody else. But can you think of another first baseman right now in the league that's plays a better defensive first base?
I don't know. I'd have to kind of look at. I'm blanking on actual first baseman. I can see G-Man Choi because we just saw him play.
I thought too. Like Trey Mancini's not going to win a first Gold Glove.
No, Stonehands.
Luke Voigt, yeah, Luke Voigt, Rizzo, who played most of the time in the National League, might.
All right, let's look
Jose
at
Abreu won't.
First baseman. All right, so you've got. Okay, so Vladdy leads right now in WAR for first baseman. Wow. He's not doing terribly. Goldschmidt is, well, he's in the other league. Matt Olson. Matt Olson's a pretty solid defender.
Right, that's true. That is a good pick.
Yeah.
But you're right. Well, let's say, let's be fair. It's his first year playing first base. Probably doesn't win it this year.
Ty France is another one. From Seattle.
Right. Another good. Yeah, right. So he's in tough competition.
Yeah, he's got tough competition.
But I mean, my argument is like Vladdy wins a Triple Crown.
Yeah.
Do you not win the MVP?
I know, right?
Like,
but then somebody mentioned the year that Miguel Cabrera won the Triple Crown. A lot of people were shouting that Mike Trout should have won the MVP that year because he was better defensively. And he gave up stats that were similar to Cabrera, but his actual defensive metrics were way better than Cabrera, and that he should have won the MVP. But I mean, like, it's hard to argue, right? It's so tough because you've got two career years happening right now.
Well, in Vlad's short career, of 3 years, it's a career. I'm going to hazard a guess. He does. I don't know if he. I want to say that I don't know if he equals his pace next year, but maybe he does.
Maybe he does, right?
Maybe this is Vlad's baseline.
Exactly, and that's what we're hoping, right? I mean, we've seen players that kind of keep this up year after year. He might not get a Triple Crown chance again, where his average might be super high, but maybe somebody else is hitting 50 home runs and he's only got 39.
Right.
Or he's, his average is a little down. Maybe he's hitting 286, but he's got 50 home runs and 120 RBIs. Like, we don't know what we're going to get, but we're expecting elite performance from him from now on.
If I was a baseball writer, I would be hard pressed not to give Ohtani the MVP.
Yeah.
But man, if Vlad wins a Triple Crown, like at least they should share it,
right?
Like, co-MVP, like. And then again, my argument is, at what point does not the shimmer, but like at what point does that kind of stop? Like, at what point does he automatically get the MVP award because he hits and pitches? Yeah. And you're right. And I'm not, and please
not minimizing his.
Not minimizing the fact that he's a good pitcher.
Yeah.
Like, someone said, I read an article today where they compared him to Matt Scherzer. He said, Matt Scherzer pitcher. I said, well, okay, well, let's whoa. Matt Scherzer's got like a 2.17 ERA since he's joined the Dodgers. Like, he's been unbelievable. He's not Matt Scherzer.
No.
He is probably a really good number 2 right
now. And he's having a good year. He wasn't
right.
like this before.
Right.
Like I know he had an injury there, so his pitching was kind of off, but even when he came in, when he was a full-on pitcher, and they weren't sure if they were going to DH him and play every day or not. He wasn't that great a pitcher. He had like a 4 ERA, 4.8 something ERA.
And he's batting 257, or 250, whatever.
Yeah.
That's not great.
No.
Well, I don't know what his on base is, and that's really more of a.
His on base is 360.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
So, I mean, he's a good hitter. To me, it's at what point do we like not give him the MVP because he can do one above average, the other one average, a little bit above. Like, I would say he's above average pitcher. He's an above average hitter. Obviously, he's got 44 jacks, right?
Yeah.
I would say he's an above average hitter. I don't know. If I was Vladdy, I'd be like, come on, man.
Come on, man. I know, right? I know. I feel the same way because I'm like, man, he's having such a great season. But here's the other thing, right? Remember Donaldson when he won his MVP? Mike Trout was right there with him.
Yeah.
And they gave it to Donaldson. And one of the things that swayed them was the fact that the Jays were a playoff team and the A's weren't.
Right.
So maybe this sways like, hey,
Right.
this guy helped his team into the playoffs.
That's a good point because even when Donaldson was playing for the Jays, they had Batista and Encarnacion, Russell Martin. I mean, they had some good hitters like Vlad, right? Teoscar. Yep. When you were mentioning just now, like the stats are just ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
Like, so we're talking about Lourdes Gurriel Jr., who's been their hottest hitter. I think he's got 25 RBIs in the month of September.
Yeah.
Only on the 15th of September. Is batting 7th. And a lineup that features George Springer, who's on one leg, but still got 15 home runs and batting 260, and can still run bases really well, as we've seen the past couple of days.
Yeah.
You've got Simeon, who's hit 39 home runs, batting 270. Vlad Guerrero, Triple Crown. Bo Bichette, 293, 25 home runs.
Well, if I would have told you 3 years ago that Teoscar Hernandez was going to be 4th in average in the American League, right?
No way. If you said 4th in home runs, I would have believed. Because at that point, we didn't know who I don't think we knew who Teoscar was, right? Yeah. We knew he's a power threat, but he chased a lot of bad pitches. And I think his most he had hit was 27 home runs that were 25 home runs.
Yeah.
He's turned out to be a hitter.
He's one heck of a. So here's the thing, right? We're looking at the MVP voting. Vladdy's going to get votes. Simeon's going to get votes. And Teoscar's going to get votes.
Right. So I think if you put Simeon on a different team, let's say you put Simeon on the White Sox.
Yeah.
Batting 270, 39 home runs, 100 RBIs, or close to 100 RBIs, playing, you've got 4 errors all year, even though one cost him.
Yeah.
He'd be talked about for MVP.
Yeah.
I think you put Teoscar Hernandez on the Astros.
Yeah.
He'd be talked about for MVP. So you're right. We just happen to have them all on one team.
On one team. And that's amazing.
It's like you said yesterday, the game was boring to watch yesterday because it was 2-0. It's the typical Rays. I don't know what it is with the Rays. Just
shift everywhere and
just boring. But then when they, like today, and it was only 6-3, but man, it's fun to watch him hit. When Vladdy is on,
he is hitting lasers. Like that home run the other day that just barely cleared the wall, but it was like a line shot. I've never seen a ball hit that low, get out.
Well, it almost happened again today. The double off the wall.
The double off the wall.
Bichette, I was worried because yesterday Bichette looked terrible. Like he looked like he didn't have a clue up there. He looked like he didn't want to be up there. He was swinging at pitches. The second strikeout, I think, was like 5 feet off the plate. He swung like flail at a changeup. It was awful. But then today he comes in and hits a home run, drives in 4 runs. Like it's just this team. I don't know where there's a hole. You want to see Grichuk, kind of?
Grichuk when he's in the lineup?
Like Dickerson,
Lamb. I mean, but that's the joy of this team, right? So right now they don't have an actual third baseman.
No, we have Valera
and Lamb.
Yeah. And what happened to Kevin Smith?
I think they sent him back down.
Really?
I think. I'm not really sure.
But
yeah, so I mean Valera, like granted, Valera's been hitting great. You can't ask much more of him. He's a switch hitter. He's a solid defender. And he's actually getting on base and getting hits. And they're timely hits too, which is nice.
So I don't know where Biggio is on the road to recovery.
Yeah.
But he's ready to come back. I think you've learned this year that he's expendable.
Yep.
I mean, if you need to trade him in the offseason for a reliever, another starter, I mean, he's expendable, right? I mean, you've got enough depth now in your system that you can. And I like Biggio. I'm a big Biggio fan, but
and at this point right now, I think it all depends on whether or not they can re-sign Semien.
Right.
Because if you can re-sign Semien, then Biggio is expendable, and players will pay a pretty penny for a player that can play all over the diamond.
Yeah.
and who has a great eye, left-handed bat. People are always looking for lefties.
Well, before we talk about the off season,
yep,
let's talk about this season. Let's move on to our blue chips and dip. I think we're getting kind of short on time.
Yep.
Our blue chips and dip segment. Now, we were kind of hemming and hawing about who we should, we've talked about a lot of prospects, but we kind of agreed that we should talk about the Buffalo Bisons.
Yeah.
In general, the Buffalo Bisons. Sorry?
The team.
The whole team itself. They're in first place. Our AAA team is 69-43. So it's not just the Jays that are on a roll. In the last 10 games, the Bisons are 8-2.
And that just kind of goes to show how good our farm system is.
Right. And if you look on I would think we're both pretty up to date on our prospects. And when I was looking at the leaders on this team, I was hard pressed to, apart from Wagaspack and pitching, I didn't know half these guys. But Kevin Smith leads the team with a 286 average and 19 home runs, 64 RBIs. I think he'll be in a position next year to push for third base. And depending on what happens with Simeon, maybe second.
Yep.
But the guy, so kudos to the Bisons. I would love to see them, win the division and make some noise in the playoffs. That'd be great for the city of Buffalo, especially since they hosted Toronto for such a long time, did such a great job. But one guy that got a cup of coffee in the majors is Bryan Barker. He's the closer for the Bisons. And this year, he's appeared in 35 games. He's pitched 36 innings and a third. He's got 43 strikeouts and a .096 WHIP.
Yeah.
With a 1.49 ERA. And he's 26 years old.
26. I don't know where they've been hiding this guy.
I think you mentioned it before, when they called him up, they called him up and Pearson.
And Pearson, yeah.
He said, "Where's this guy been?" I had never heard of this guy, and we've been looking for bullpen depth for months, and this guy's been sitting in our minor league system. Why wasn't he up earlier?
He was a lights out closer for the Bisons for most of the season.
I mean, if he can continue, he's pitched one inning with Toronto.
Yep.
Giving up a hit, I think, and
one hit and no runs.
And one strikeout. I think he's got a strikeout.
And one strikeout, yeah.
I mean, so right now, yay Bryan Barker, yay Bisons. So back to the Blue Jays. So right now our bullpen, and I think we should probably wrap it up on this.
Yeah.
Our bullpen right now, that was our biggest, our crux, right? That was our Achilles heel, and I think everybody could agree with me on that one. So we have Romano closing, who's looked in save situations, he's looked good.
Yeah.
In non-save situations, he's kind of got beat up a little bit, but we got Tim Meza, who's looked good. Simber.
He's looked pretty good.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Richards, who I said earlier, is a surprising 7-2.
Yeah.
And his last 4 outings have been pretty good. Then you have Nate Pearson, maybe throwing 100 out of them, and then Merriweather, who he hasn't pitched again since that one outing in Baltimore.
No, it's. I'm thinking he just needs to get his feel again.
Yeah, I hope he's not hurt again, or he's not.
Yeah, I think what's happened is that they brought him up, and then they're like, well, we can't just let him sit there. We need to use these guys, and they were hoping that they would have a blowout game, and then they ended up using him in that one game where they kind of lost against the Orioles. But
and that's why I'm surprised, to be honest. That's why today I was surprised, and it was 6-1, and they put Soria in.
Yeah, I
thought that'd be a perfect opportunity to put Merriweather in. It's not a safe situation. You're still up by 5 runs. That's why I was like, maybe he's twinged something again, or they're just, I don't know.
Who knows?
But really, overall, the bullpen looks relatively healthy.
Yeah, and you've got some guys that are doing well. I mean, like you said, Meza has been pretty solid. He's had a few rough outings, but for the most part, he's been pretty reliable. Simber has been pretty decent. You can't put him in a closed situation.
Oh, and he's not a closer. He's not a high leverage situation guy, right? But
and Richards looks like he's got his stuff together again, so he's pitching well. So yeah, and you know what? If Nate Pearson comes in and does a decent job, I saw in an interview yesterday with Hazel May, he kind of said he's following Jordan Romano's lead.
Nice.
Just to kind of figure out, because he's been a starter his whole life, right? So he's like, I got to figure out how to kind of prep myself, in short order. How do I prep myself before a game? I don't never know when you're going to go in.
Right.
So he's been kind of following and shadowing Romano, which is good.
Yeah. I mean, if you get Merriweather back to healthy and can pitch like he did before he went in the IL.
Yeah.
Could you imagine having Pearson, Merriweather, and Romano pitch in the 7th, 8th, and 9th?
Yeah. 100.
Like, that reminds me of the Royals that beat the Jays in
2015.
2015.
Yeah.
That bullpen that basically won the series for them, right?
Yeah.
Lights out 7, 8, 9. But in any event, let's hope the Jays take 3 from Minnesota.
That'd be nice. Sweet Minnesota.
And take some more from New York, and we'll see what happens next week.
Yep.
Okay, everybody, for myself, Mickey, and my partner in crime, Ivan.
Have a good week, guys.
Have a good week, everybody. We'll talk to you hopefully not in 2 weeks.